and beat this until we all start thinking about how important education is for the state of Nebraska. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Hilders and Senator Wayne. Senator Chambers, you recognize, and this is your third time, sir.
Thank you. Mr. President, members of the legislature, what you're watching in play here is a division of labor. Before Senator Wayne came, I had to cover the waterfront. He's lucky that I came before him. He's talking about teaching in the classroom. You know what I had to do in the old days? I had to go into schools and take paddles away from principals, physically. Our children were beaten with these paddles. The teachers agreed. Most of the teachers in the schools where our children went were white. So in addition to not getting a decent education, they were physically beaten in the schools. Before I had a child, children would run to the barber shop where I worked, and I'd see some with cut faces, black eyes, bloody noses. One had his shirt partway torn off, and he came to get me because I would go to the school where it would happen, and I would confront the teacher if the teacher was there. That's what I did. And I got corporal punishment out of the public schools, standing alone. There was no elder statesman like I am for Senator Wayne here in this legislature or anywhere else. And I wasn't even in the legislature when these bad things were happening, but I knew when I got here I was going to address them. I mentioned I got little black Sambo out of the schools. He didn't have to deal with that in trying to get it out of the schools. Talking about not having foreign languages. When I managed to get OPS divided into 3 districts, I mentioned that we would have control over the curriculum in our schools to the same extent that white boards of education did. We'd hire a superintendent. We would hire the teachers. And in those long ago years, it seems like a long time ago, China was not recognized as the economy that they are now. And I pointed out to people that in days to come, you're going to see that China is going to have more and more of an impact on what's happening in America. And if we get our school district, one of the things we will teach is Chinese, because they will want to have a foothold in this country. And they would rather have somebody who's indigenous to this country, who can speak Chinese, who would work with and for them. And I was resisted by the flunkies for OPS. But then, lo and behold, Central started teaching Mandarin Chinese, and Lincoln Public Schools did the same. But for our children, no. I'm going to bring some of those paddles down there one day and show you all. And I'm going to come back to what my amendment is dealing with, but this that we're talking about now takes priority. Here's what I did. The State Board of Education was coming to Omaha to have a hearing. Not about corporal punishment, but that's what I was talking about all the time. So what I did was got a large paper sack, and I put about 6 of these paddles in it, because I think and strategize they were going to have the hearing in the gymnasium of a white school. So I went and I began to talk to the members of the State Board of Education. I mentioned the way these paddles were being used against our children in the schools, and you couldn't use this kind of an implement on an animal without being charged with cruelty to animals. So maybe if our children were dogs instead of human beings, they would be treated better. So you know what I did? When one of the persons stood up and said, well, that's not what we're here for. I said, well, it's what I want to talk about. And in this sack, I have these paddles. And you know what I had done? Schemer that I had weakened.
1 minute.
I had weakened the bottom of the sack. So when I took my arm from around the sack and took hold of the rim of the sack and held it up, the bottom fell out of the sack. And all of those paddles clattered on that floor and echoed and re-echoed as things do in a gymnasium. And there was blessed quietness. So I took my time deliberately and regathered those paddles. And when I came down to this legislature, I was able to persuade enough senators to take corporal punishment out of the public schools. And I'm going to be watching Senator Groney with his misguided stuff of saying teachers can use violence against these children. I wish he or anybody would try to use it on me. Like when I'd go to these schools and I'd say to the teacher, if the teacher was there, I'm going to do to you what you did to that child. So the teachers would scatter when they knew I was coming. But they were brave when they were dealing with little children. As bad as things are now in our schools, they were far worse then. And I confronted those things, and I'll confront them here. But I will take issues one at a time. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Chambers. Senator Scheer, you're recognized.